You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and of course, you're tuned into that special series that we've been hosting for a few weeks now in association with Business World, where we talk about the economy. A lot's been discussed, a lot of ideas have been poured in. In fact, there has been an influx of new ideas. The old ones, obviously, are still in question whether they will work or not owing to the COVID 19 situation. And we've had some smart minds and we've had some smarter minds telling us that the situation is perhaps as optimistic as they feel. And it's been quite some time that the COVID 19 pandemic has been. Wreaking havoc on different, in fact, levels of the economy, and how it has impacted several individuals who are entrepreneurs and business leaders in our country is what we exactly discuss on this platform. Not, in fact, waste more time and introduce them one by one. Joining me on the broadcast today is Mr. Ankit Oberoi, co-founder and CEO of Ad Pushup, Mr. Anubhav Anusha, global CEO and R&D head for Gene Store. We also are joined by Mr. Sandeep Kumar Panda, who is the co-founder and CEO of InstaSafe Technologies, and Ms. Pooja Dugar, founder of Leap Years Preschool, is also with us on the panel, and Mr. Pulak Satish Kumar, director and COO of Pure Sight Systems, official distributors of iRobot in India, is also joining us on the platform. And last but by no means the least, my partner in crime, my co-anchor, Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Business World. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and we'll in fact ask you some familiar questions and some not so familiar questions as well. In fact, Pooja, let me start by asking you a very easy question. Where do you think the economy stands today? Obviously, you're one of those people, as I heard before we started the show offline, that overnight, the COVID-19 situation brought about transformation for you. Explain to us and explain it to our viewers as well. Let's start the show with some optimism.
Thanks. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me on the panel. So for me, I think it's great to see how innovation is being rewarded. I see the economy going in a great space because this is the time everybody has been compelled to think out of the box. So either you get wiped out or you innovate. That's the only two options which are left with you. And I think the smarter minds and the not so smart minds and even the smarter than that, everybody is here looking to innovate. When I talk about my own industry, preschool industry, it's a completely brick and mortar setup. We all believe in hands-on learning, holistic learning. But when COVID came into this whole, when we were hit by the pandemic, it took us, few days to decide that we need to innovate, we need to go online. The question was, it was all about babies, but it doesn't matter. At least, we came up with something which would actually take care of children online. And the best part about is, Vineet, is we started with 2 new verticals thanks to COVID. So we were running a brick and mortar school, which was very limited to a radius of say 3 kilometers. But now we have no logistic barriers. We are dealing with children, parents, adults, across the world, and we see a huge growth into our industry because if you have a good platform, and as I say, edtech has a huge potential in the times to come, and if your technology into your system is sound, it's going to bridge up all the gaps which COVID would bring into your business. So I see things going in a very positive way because I think our reach has increased. Education has got integrated with technology and it's doing wonders. And the kids today are all born in the technology era. They are not like the old schools that they wouldn't adapt. So the question was, will the babies adapt to the change or not? I think the parents took time to adapt, but the babies took it very fast. The children, the students, they took it pretty fast, because they really know the use of technology, they've been handling it, and they can really do well to it. So I feel when it comes to education, I think if you can quickly move into the edtech space, you have a huge potential because it's going to remove all physical barriers which you had up till now.
Okay, Pooja, the only question I want to ask is, have the fees that have been coming from parents, have you had parents saying, can you defer fees? I know you run an upmarket school, so
no, I'll give you
relatively wealthy parents, but I'm just saying, you really said that the students adopted fast, the parents were slow. Tell us, what is the change when you move to this pure online learning, and someday you'll move to a hybrid or a mixed model, but tell us what is the change from a
Okay.
business standpoint. You said you expanded your sphere
Yes.
of students. You've gone, geography is no longer a limitation. So tell us what is the change. I'm trying to understand, is there a change in your business model?
So there has been a change. So first, I will answer your first part of the question, which comes to the fee and all. Whether it's up market or any market, people feel that if the school doors are shut, why would we be paying the fee? It's online. So deferring the fee in the first 1 or 2 months was there, but the kind of quality you deliver it to the parents, and when they know it's unparalleled to what they can do it in the house, ultimately they don't mind paying, because education is something which is a necessity, and the children's milestones are not going to stop because of the pandemic. They have to achieve what they have to achieve. Also, you have to understand, with my industry there's a mindset which works in a preschool has always been seen as the stepping stone to a higher school. So the moment the high school admission starts to creep in, there was a rush in the parent body, and they wanted to get their kids trained the best because they had to crack through those schools. So obviously then there was no problem of fees, and fees start rolling once the big schools started giving out forms. I'm sure a lot of people are hearing me. They might like it, they might not like it, but this is the reality of the industry. We can't deny it. So that was one thing. Of course, when it comes to business model, see, for us, everything was brick and mortar. The teachers were very, very involved. The parents were not so involved. But because of this pandemic, I feel the education responsibility has been hugely on parents, and they took some time to accept it. Another positive note, which I can say, which happened in our industry, is they started to realize what exactly schools do with the kids. Because for them, up till now, is sending the kid to school and then forgetting what's really happening. So, of course, that realization came into them. But I would really sympathize with parents as well, because it was a huge, huge responsibility, and parents are not trained to teach children. They
Okay, Vijay.
are, yeah.
Thank you. Anubhav, what has happened to your business in the last 6 months? And as Vineet asked Pooja, where do you see the economy going? How has it impacted your business? And what is the pivot you've taken in your business to kind of reimagine your business?
So, Gene Store initially was a clinical diagnostics services company, which has a global footprint of testing laboratories. In 2019, fortunately, our global management took a pivot before COVID-19 hit to get into the manufacturing sector for diagnostic tests for infectious diseases. So during the first 3 months of the COVID-19 onset, we were quickly able to pivot onto the manufacturing side, and we were successful in developing a real-time PCR assay for COVID-19 diagnosis, which we initially launched out of our French facility and got the French Ministry of Health approval. But then we were able to develop a Make in India testing kit as well. Get and we got quickly ICMR approval. But then we sort of reevaluated the strategy in terms of what does affordability in testing mean for the Indian population, and what role is affordable testing going to play in combating COVID-19. So both our strategy, I mean, our strategy is a critical part of looking at the economy during COVID and post-COVID. During COVID, how we're gonna, I mean, how low-cost testing is gonna enable the economy to open up is that, I don't know if you know, but we recently launched our RT-PCR test kit at a price point of 199 rupees. Within a span of 30 to 60 days, we were able to capture most of about 40% of testing that was happening in the private sector. What that's enabled is it's enabled state governments to lower the cost of testing, which initially started at 4,500, dropped to 2,500. Now, in states like Maharashtra and Odisha has come down to 1,200 rupees. So, without the availability of a low cost solution, that low cost testing would not have happened. Now, in terms of forecasting testing rates, it's going to go lower than 1,200. There's a lot of room. Hopefully, we sort of enable, through our pricing, labs to still be a profitable enterprise. So, in my opinion, beyond our business, the economy, if it really has to open up, I mean, if you look at the aviation sector, if that has to open up, and people should feel comfortable.
Okay, there is a fear factor. People have to overcome that fear factor.
Correct.
Primarily for anything to change.
And it
the
becomes.
question that I want to ask you, Anubhav, is, we asked, me and Vineet asked a lot of guess when do they see the economy coming full bloom? Because it was a healthcare issue, which became the live issue, and it has become a livelihood issue.
Yeah.
So, what's your sense? I mean, COVID going away is possibly bad for your business in the temporary because you have testing, but it's good because you can come up with new products and services to deal with the post-COVID economy, so to say, like you pivoted. So, what's your sense on the vaccine, and where do you said the testing numbers will come down? You said that, right?
No, I haven't.
You haven't said
I
that.
said the testing numbers are going to go up. So, I mean, if I could answer your
Go
question,
ahead.
I'll marry your current question with the previous one with the economy, and I'll address it from the perspective of healthcare. I think COVID-19 has probably been the best thing for the Indian healthcare sector from the point of view that it's not only forced our local companies to innovate and become manufacturers, we now have the capability as a nation that post COVID 19, India is going to be one of the significant contributors to the global export business when it comes to in vitro diagnostics. Considering the level of infectious disease, the load of infectious disease on our population in whole, we can now effectively say that, okay, 90% of all infectious disease diagnostics that India will utilize for HIV, hepatitis C will be made in India. So, I mean, I think we should commend most healthcare entrepreneurs, both on the testing and the
Yeah,
manufacturing.
and I understand that, Anubhav.
Yeah.
But let me also tell you on the flip side, about $2.5 billion of loss in the healthcare, two billion dollars in the organized healthcare, and about half a billion in the unorganized GP, your neighborhood doctor, who you go for seeing when you have some minor ailment. So I think while we've developed capabilities, we still have a long way to go in healthcare, a long way in spending, a long way in building infrastructure,
So,
and building
yeah, sorry.
healthcare in rural India. The only positive is with telemedicine, I think accessibility for rural India, I'm assuming that the digital devices and digital connectivity will be there, will become better. So I'll come back to you. Let me get everyone to make opening comments. Pulak, tell us what has happened to your business in the last 6 months. Where do you see it progressing in the next few months?
Yeah, hi Anurag. So just to give a brief, I mean, pandemic has really worked as a blessings in disguise for us. I mean, it has really opened doors for many companies who are in smart appliances. There are basically two reasons out of this for this. If you see, there is an extended lockdown where people were asked to work from home for a longer period, and second was direct involvement of the end consumer. So today, if you see, the market is like people are buying double door refrigerators, they are buying more trimmers. And for us, where we were in India for last 5 years now, and iRobot being a global company, more than 30 years, more than 1,500 patents, we were there. But from the human tech perspective, if we really talk about, the adaptability was a question. But today we saw that there is a huge demand. I mean, in that sort of period where the lockdown was in India, we saw a 3x growth of our product itself. And it has really given a big opportunity for the companies who are really in the smart appliances space. The next, what we are going to do is recently we have launched a new iRobot Genius app. So basically, it doesn't talks about the features of the product. It is more from the consumer experience, what they really are looking from a product. So just a small example. From our robots, if you just want to clean an area which is below the table, I mean your dining table, or if at a given specific time every day you clean your kitchen, like after 9 or 9 p.m. So all this is possible with this app. So this is where we are going ahead. I mean, it will be more about not changing too much of consumer behavior, their habits, and fulfilling their needs. So this has really given us a big opportunity in India.
And with maids, because of fear of COVID, a lot of people keeping their maids and their servants out of their home. There may be adaptability of robots that may help in doing basic tasks that you outlined. We need.
Right. Let's also get an opening remark from Ankit. Ankit.
Yes, Vineet. Let me give you some. I think what I'll probably do is I'll add some data to the conversation. I mean, being at Push-Up, and since we connect media organizations to advertisers, right? We are in a unique spot where we don't have any boundaries of a country as such, but globally we connect about 6 billion ad impressions to publishers and users globally, right? So it gives us a unique perspective, and I'll start this with data. I think when the pandemic hit us, what we realized is right after it there was about a 25 to 30% drop in ECPMs, one of the terms which we use in our industry, which was very, very apparent. But in India, it was actually larger than the global average. India saw more sort of like a 40% drop, which is in line with the numbers which we've seen about the GDP drop having shrinking by 23.9%, etc. But what's surprising is, of course, by towards the end of quarter 2, at least in our business, on a macro level, advertising, it's all digital, so it has, of course, benefited a lot because everybody's online. People are spending more time online. So as a business, we benefited. But when we look at the spend index, or what advertisers are spending on, how much of that spend is coming back to online, we're seeing very different trajectories. Like if you look at the global economy, US, for example, CPG segment is doing better than last year. In fact, 60% better than last year. Auto and travel, of course, everybody knows where they're headed, but auto is down about 35%. Travel is down about 65%. India, surprisingly, what we're seeing, the recovery is much slower than the global economy. And Q3 for us calendar year as it started, it's not been a great beginning to quarter 3, and as we're heading into the quarter 4 calendar year, we're realizing the recovery is actually much slower than anticipated. And our gut feeling is it's going to take a while, at least another 3 to 6 months, before we can say how well the advertising industry, at least online, the spends will come. Of course, everybody's guess, as it might be, edtech companies, CPG or FMCG have been spending more, but some of the larger spenders from last year or traditionally have really taken a big step back.
But Ankit, do you think it's only going to take 3 to 6 months, because the sentiment at this point in time is only going from bad to worse?
No, absolutely. I mean, on a macro level, Vineet, it's not something which you and I can predict what will happen, right? But at least if you extrapolate based on how the recovery has happened in the last 3 to 6 months, we are seeing trends of rise happening. But I'm saying it will take at least 3 to 6 months for India to hit where US, for example, is today in terms of recovery.
Okay, remark from Sandeep, Mr. Sandeep Kumar Panda. What do you make of the situation currently that we are find ourselves in, and also try and juxtapose that particular position to where you are today?
See, I'll tell you what was happening in March, right? Typically, March is a year end, and B2B enterprises typically trying to exhaust their budgets and things like that, right? And the pandemic hit us on 15th of March when the lockdown started, right? So, first and foremost, in the subsequent weeks, we saw three main things. One was rise of social channels, right? I mean, Zoom was shooting through the roof. Microsoft Teams was falling apart. There were downtimes, and then we saw massive work from home release. I mean, at InstaSave, we provide a zero trust secure access solution, which essentially helps, similar to VPNs, helps users and applications to be accessed from anywhere. And we are a pretty nifty tool in the work from home era, right? So we saw massive surge in customers' needs. And the third thing that happened was social attacks, right? I mean, let's put it this way. As the 6 months evolved, initially there was a mad scramble that, hey, am I online? Is my organization ready to be working remotely? Is it even happening? Then, as and how 4 and 6 weeks passed, we saw the question was, hey, am I safe? What's happening to us? Because we saw two kinds of primary attacks. One was ransomware, where people's applications, files and folders were getting attacked and locked out, and only when you pay up or similar kind of threats happen, then only then it is released. And second was business email compromise or phishing attacks, right? Massive amount of domains had popped up in the name of the pandemic, COVID, and bunch of things. We saw attackers trying to say, hey, donate money, whatnot was happening, and then phishing attacks were happening. And then people actually have fallen to it because, see, when people are working from home, it's an unprecedented situation. While in the cybersecurity era, we are all about risk mitigation, nobody had planned for such a large 100% work from home scenario. So no matter whatever business continuity planning that you do, it was absolutely impossible to imagine at the best of the largest of organizations, as well as young, emerging startups or growing companies, right? So what we saw was that first people wanted, give me a method where I can work from home. Then question came up that, hey, what have you done to us? I mean, are we even safe? We got attacked. People, in spite of having the best of technology and tools and processes, came back to us after they were kind of breached. Obviously, being breached is not pretty popular in India or globally. Nobody likes to talk about it. But when you kind of work through the customers, then you realize they have been affected in spite of doing this whatever best they could. Another thing that we saw was the customers' budgets were tight, and typically cybersecurity is a hardware-driven business. That means you need a set of appliances, you need a set of hardware servers to kind of install in your customer, in your premises, in your data center premises, and only then you can enable things like that, right? So that was not happening. So again, we saw a situation, and we are a completely cloud-delivered solution, similar to a Dropbox. So need for solutions which do not need any hardware, need very minimal configuration setup, that kind of grew up, right? So that all happened in the quarter of April, May, June. And we were also very happy to give a lot of freebies to our prospects in that period who immediately wanted some assistance and were not ready with the budget and all, right? And then subsequently, July onwards, something more interesting happened, right? Initially, the skepticism was for 3 months, probably, extend another 3 months. But now, enterprise customers have realized that this is not going to go away anytime soon. I mean, customers like TCS and all have already explained, right? I mean, 3/4 of their 75% of their staff is going to permanently work remote. But the internalization or accepting the fact that digital workers are going to work remotely for a very, very long period of time, that has kind of sunk in. So it is no more about just about a couple of days or a quarters. People have realized that a good amount of percentage of customers will always or workers will always work offline, and then comes a new set of requirements that are coming up. What is new set of requirements? There are a bunch of compliance sensitive applications. There are a bunch of applications which just cannot be accessed when you're at home. They need to be under supervision, because if something were to go wrong, you need to have a method to do forensic analysis about it, right? So these are much deeper conversations which rarely used to happen before, because work from home was an occasional affair, right? But now with those kind of things, work from home becoming permanent, customers are asking us, give us methods where we can, record things, where we can enforce compliance, where we can actually do forensic analysis, and how do we kind of stay for the long haul, right? So that's what we are seeing. And to put it, how things are going forward, digital workers will be working remotely or work from anywhere rather, right? And that forced digital transformation is an accepted fact today. That is not going to go anytime soon. But how digital workers can support the real workers in the field, I think that's something that we have to see as and how the pandemic goes forward. Yeah.
Sandeep, I also want to ask, let's say pre-pandemic, if the total spend on IT and technology was 5%,
Right.
right? Traditionally, I started in the IT industry, and it
Right.
used to be called the total cost of ownership. Today,
Absolutely.
we are moving to an OPEX model in technology,
Right.
right? So tell us, within that, whatever is the spend, has the spend for security gone up? Because
Yes.
your business is possibly a business that has benefited from COVID, because every business has to be a technology business. So
Absolutely.
tell us, give us some sense in terms of how much your business has grown. I know all my friends who are in the internet security domain, their companies have gone 300%, 400%, 500%. So give us a sense of where you've gone.
Sure. Before I answer that, let me tell you how is budget typically allocated. And to put it very colloquially, first and foremost, there is compliance or regulatory budget, where companies are forced to do that because of regulations and compliance needs, right? That is standard. That goes on. That's what analysts predict. Second is when you get attacked, right? And once you get breached, then immediately all budgets are open, because you don't want to leave anything on the table. And that's when the board understands the repercussions of getting breached, right? So what we saw here is, because of ransomware and phishing attacks, lot of clients across, I mean, retail, distributed houses, anywhere there is large distributed business happening, they have got breached, and immediately now they want to ensure methods of how they can stay safe, right? So in that terms of percentage of allocation, typically it floats anywhere between 7 to 12% of an IT budget where cyber comes in, right? So segments of customer which have got kind of affected through ransomware or phishing attacks, definitely we have seen their change, right? These numbers are not published anywhere, so difficult to kind of put an exact number to it. But in terms of our business growth, obviously being a work from home provider or a zero truck access provider, we have seen close to about 10x quarter on quarter. At the same time, over an annual basis, we have seen north of 500%. Obviously, when customers at such massive traction. In fact, I want to tell you one more story here. How sizing happens in this business. Typically, you are a 1,000 user organization. You will provision for 250, 300 workers to be working from anywhere. It could be your top leadership, or your distributed business, right? Now, when there is a situation like this, nearly all of your organization is working remotely, right? I mean, just as Pooja said, you don't have choice but to kind of go for ed tech, right? So in that case, then suddenly all of your sizing goes for a toss. So even if you've invested in the prior for technologies which can enable you to work from home, you still need to scale up and reinvest more so that all your workers are seamlessly able to work. And that's like a key differentiation what was happening prior.
You're in the middle of a special program in association with the business world, and we've been talking about the economy. Anubhav, we started with you. It's always important to get a perspective as on basis of the business that you're involved in, how soon would you like the economy to come back? Usually, businesses have been striving for the economy to come back or aspiring for the economy to come back as soon as possible. The government is also doing a lot. The Aatmanirbhar campaign, in fact, has really taken off. But at the same time, the numbers have not come out so well for the economy. What do you say to yourself in such a situation when the mood of the entire nation is perhaps on a dismal note, but you on a personal basis are perhaps doing well for yourself? How do you, in fact, combine these two feelings together?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what our economy needs is strategic spending of its resources aimed at opening up of the manufacturing and the travel and the consumer sectors. That can be enabled. So if you were to ask me my opinion, if I was given the mandate that I was to open up Delhi NCR, within 30 days time, I would set up local testing facilities, bring down the cost of testing, and make mandatory testing available for all asymptomatic individuals. Because the key thing to note about the difference between COVID-19 and all the other coronaviruses that have hit the human population is that the spread of the virus during the asymptomatic period is probably the most significant factor in the pandemic that we're observing. Is that between the 0 to 5 day period, the viral shedding is more in asymptomatic individuals. So I really think within a period of 30 to 60 days, if local governments make the decision that we're going to focus on RT-PCR, which is the gold standard, and we're going to bring about a greater access to testing, both with the public and private sector partnership model, I think, given that we've scaled up our testing capacity on a scale like never seen before, and we've successfully done that as a nation, it can be accelerated at a much higher rate, and the onus will be on the regional authorities that control travel, that control, say, retail sector. So if you want to open a mall, what you need to bring about is a confidence within consumers that the ecosystem that we're providing, whether it's aviation, trains, or retail, the onus is on the person managing that ecosystem to provide a COVID-19 free ecosystem. So anybody going in needs to be, whether he's asymptomatic, a temperature check is not enough. You need to have an RT-PCR, which gives the result in 1 hour, or say you've gotten it done within the last 12 hours, that I'm going to enable someone to enter that ecosystem. So until unless we don't get that into check, I mean, I think even before a vaccine, it's very feasible for manufacturing to open up in a big way in our country, for the retail sector to open up in a big way, and the aviation sector. So I think if we focus on testing alone, we can win the fight against COVID, and it'll be just another virus to hit the human population. And that's the thing, is we've been playing a catch-up game between testing, manufacturing, and India today has an excess surplus when it comes to manufacturing. It has a sufficient testing capacity that can match testing levels in the US, Europe. There's no reason why that India should lag behind. And quite frankly, we're not lagging behind. It's just a matter of time when the regulation is optimized to focus more on asymptomatic testing. That's what I would say.
Also, Anubhav, if you had to make a prediction, I mean, I know you're not an astrologer, you're not a futurist. I think, but being somebody who is in the know of what's happening, who understands testing, who's come up with a kit for this, what is your sense of when will the COVID go away? Of course, we know that the vaccine will be only available next year, and there are drugs that are coming up, which are for mild patients, mild systems. They can handle, for example, Mylan has come up with a drug. which will be available soon. But tell us, what's your sense? I mean, whether you're proved right, wrong, doesn't matter. What's your thinking?
My understanding is that if you look at our past, we got over the Spanish flu, right? So if you look at
It lasted
COVID-19,
2 years. And the
last two.
cost of that 2 years, I mean, today there is a fear people are not going to malls, they're not going to hotels, they're not, cinemas are not open, schools have not opened at least for another month. So there is a economic cost of also which impacts families. It may not impact, all of us are privileged in some way, but it impacts. We also have to work to make sure that 300 people that work with us keep going. So the question I'm trying to ask is, of course, eventually it will go away. This shall too pass. But what's your sense on the timeline?
I would say you can look at from, I think, in my opinion, we'd hit a peak of testing rates in terms of effective utilization towards December, January. That number should look at subsiding towards the end of the first quarter of next year. That's when consumers will feel at ease in terms of stepping out. That's when I'll tell my mother, I expect to tell my mother they're officially allowed to step into a mall, right? Go spend money. Okay, I'd say that if I have a niece and a nephew, I tell them, okay, you know what? It's advisable to go into a school and attend classes in person. So I think, given the next 3 to 6 months, there is a lot of room for capacity to build up and these systems to come into place wherein not only do you have capacity of testing, you have a capacity in terms of IT and AI to manage and monitor effective cases. And once that infrastructure becomes much more robust, which I think it's in the trajectory, it's getting there, I think it comes down to consumer confidence, which will sort of start increasing, I think, towards the end of first quarter next year.
Okay, Ankit, let me ask you. Apart from real estate and I have an advertising background, I used to work with J. Walter Thompson briefly, and then I set up Exchange for Media, founded Exchange for Media. So I do clearly understand a little bit of advertising. Let me ask you, IPL has started 2 days back, right? Diwali is about 2 months away. It's 55 days away. So do you see demand staying beyond these? We know now clients have got off the pause, new campaigns have come up, new marketing initiatives are happening. There's festive season everywhere. But one, do you see within the festive season what kind of advertising volumes that you are seeing? And do you think post Diwali we will be able to sustain advertising?
Great. So, Anurag, I think one of the things which we're starting to realize is you're right. There are, at least in the short term, because of the festivities, etc., and not just again in India, globally. Quarter four, as we call it, is the one of the best quarters for our industry, right? So we do see some of the demand coming back, but compared to last year, right? We are seeing there are drops, and of course, if websites or of course in the industry are vertical specific, right? They are much larger, such as like a travel or auto website. So there are drops, but I think what we are starting to see, and when we're talking to advertisers, in a lot of cases, their revenue, their value chain pipelines are also stuck, right? There are massive cash flow issues which we are seeing across advertisers. What they're asking for are better payment terms, more time to pay, etc. While of course you've had the 20,000 lakh crore, 20 lakh crore, incentive which the government has given. Yes, the economic stimulus. But I think these are all short-term measures, right? Perhaps a lot of them will result in the MSMEs investing back into the business, giving it to, starting the whole value chain and the cycle, the economics, chain, which might reflect in these budgets. But I think my sense is that post Diwali, I think we will still see some sort of a setback. What we're seeing today, whatever has been fueled because of the stimulus, is all short term, right? What has the stimulus done, right? They've changed the definition of MSME. They've given out loans, but I think the root cause challenges have not been addressed. Like, why are the organizations in the country today, or majority of the enterprises in the company today, in a situation where 3 months of inactivity have created massive debt problems for them, right? When we say all those
issues, credit issues, quality of credit, because we don't know, there are SMEs that would owe us money, but we don't know whether some of those will be, if you're a tenant in a mall, the mall owner is not sure of the past rent, because whether that business will sustain and carry on, or whether the past will get paid, is there's no surety. I mean, we can hope for
Absolutely.
it, and in some cases there have been agreements, but it's in a quandary, so to say. It
Yeah,
is in a limbo.
and see, I think the cost behind it is massive. I mean, I understand, these are all short-term, changes which the government has made, but I think we require massive changes in terms of policy in taxation, right? When you put an India, if you really have to build an Aatmanirbhar India, right? We need to first see what is the biggest expense that we have, right? That is oil. It is not China, right? So what are we doing in terms of, enabling renewable energy, building, I mean, all of that stays, right? But our overall sense,
Yeah,
which
but
we're
those are
getting,
long term.
yeah,
If
those are
somebody
long term,
needs
right?
oxygen, is dying, you need to give them oxygen today.
Yeah.
You need to give them a CPR. If they don't get the CPR when they're dying, then. And I want to ask all the panelists if you've seen people benefiting from the economic stimulus near you, any entrepreneur. So I want to start with Sandeep. Have you seen people benefiting from the stimulus that the government has given? Sandeep
Unfortunately,
Kumar Panda?
from very close quarters, what I've learned is this interest on interest business has really started hurting people, right? Well, see, there was a lot of unawareness, right? So people are not aware what was happening, and then they kind of took it for granted that hey, the government is taking care of me, and then much later they realized, oh my goodness, there is interest on interest, and now this is getting into crazy zone,
You
right?
don't have income, there's no
Yeah.
surety on funding.
Yeah, and this is very poorly communicated. The whole stimulus thing or the kind of delayed interest payment thing was very poorly communicated. We are not used to as Indians to such fine print.
Okay, Pulak, your comments?
I think what Sandeep is saying, I agree on that, but I don't see that as Ankit was commenting on the taxation. The fiscal policy is not going to take care of these short-term issues what we are seeing it up. I also agree on Anubhav's point that testing should be increased, or vaccination should come, or this is the new normal. It's very uncertain situation where we are not sure. The only thing what we saw, that what best the small enterprises can do is just see the what next good they are going to do. There is no fixed formula for this that is going to recover in 6 months or 9 months. Yeah, so it's really very tricky to comment on this that it's going to recover in 6 months or 9 months down the line. Let's hope for the best. What I see in our business, in our sector, that yes, it's picking up because of, as you said, because of lack of house helps and lack of still people are just trying to keep distance from support, and now they are actually opening up to the IoT smart appliances and all. For us, it's going to grow. It's not going to have a setback after this festive sale, which is coming down the line, October, November. But overall, it's very, very difficult to say that economy will be in a very fast recovery mode coming 6 months or 9 months down the line. It will take its own course of action, and it will take some time.
I'm sorry, Anurag, it makes me question one thing, is that maybe COVID-19 may be the right reset button that our economy
Of course.
Yes.
We have a lot of compulsions. For the first time, we've questioned every belief that we have. We've questioned every business driver we have. My top 3 lessons from COVID, which are really never say never. Second is sound, you all are entrepreneurs, smart, but costs have to be lesser than revenue. Okay, absolutely. It sounds very, very like basic. And third is what I call ROTI. ROTI, return on time invested. I mean, you can't, just because I do a show daily, what is the ROI to me? What is the return on my time invested? I mean, we would typically call return on investment. The time is our biggest investment. So again, I think for the first time, there is a reset. But there is a support needed. And dare I say, there are about 10 odd entrepreneurs on our shows in last 4 months who have benefited from the government scheme. So it's not that. People who are savvy, who had passed loans. And there is a logic to that. But I feel that the government around Diwali will do another stimulus. And you will see throughout the next 18 months efforts by the government to be able to bring back the economy. And that would involve huge amount of spending. Pooja, let me ask you this. Right now, whatever we are doing is because of compulsion, not out of choice. And again, whether you take Pulak's business or your business, we may choose a robot because we have a compulsion. It may become a habit and it may become a lifestyle and it may become a natural choice. But I want to know, when we have the choice, do you think in schooling we'll have a hybrid model or a pure play online model? Or do you think physical will be back in full bloom again? Because parents also want to send their kids out of home for various reasons.
I think we'll have a hybrid model. I think definitely parents wants to send children to school, and children learn best when they are in that environment to learn. But hybrid model is really going to be the next thing, because see, up till now we never tried out online learning for different age groups. We never realized the importance of it. Of course, there were some edtech players who were doing their job, but there was some hesitation in parents to adapt that, to accept that. But the COVID has by force, made them realize that this is possible. So I feel a complete blended approach of online, offline, a hybrid model is what's going to come up as the next big thing in education. That's what is my take on it.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead, Vineet.
I had a question for Anubhav. Anubhav, the thing that's been crossing my mind is that when we were in lockdown, the numbers were lesser. We were locked down for over a couple of months, and now that the lockdown has opened, the economy is in fact finding its way back towards normalcy, and people are also coming out, and the numbers are also growing. So the entire situation so far has been extremely unpredictable. It's been extremely unpredictable. It leaves very little room for any contingency planning. In the middle of all of this, how is anybody supposed to be certain of their plans for the next 6 to 10 months? Isn't that something which is also going to serve as an impediment for most businesses, perhaps not yours, but others as well? Say for a restaurant or for an event company, which have been completely ostracized as a result of COVID-19. How difficult will they find this unpredictability facet of COVID-19 and the economy?
I think that's a tough question to answer, but what I would say is that I think the onus, again, the getting back to work onus before the vaccine comes out is going to be on the proprietor. If I am a large manufacturing company and want to bring back my employees, I have to focus on creating an environment that's conducive to COVID free, right? If I'm a retail giant operating thousands of stores, can I implement strategies to do that? So, I guess there's a certain degree of investment that will make you deviate from your existing business model and will sort of transfer into healthcare. But again, I think all retailers need to figure out how they're going to protect their customers. And these are decisions that can be made very quickly, investments that can be made very strategically, and you can come up with a 3-month plan that, okay, this is how I'm going to interact and make my consumers safe, or my passengers safe, or my workers feel safe. So it really comes down to how you can address that uncertainty for your base, either it's workers or consumers. And I really think it's very actionable. Malls can set up their own private labs within the malls. It can give results very quickly, and come up with an app which is only for those people who want to visit malls. You can become a member of that app, and if you're COVID free, it's linked to your Arogya Setu. You can create an ecosystem like that, and it really comes down to how effectively do you want to, or how aggressively do you want to move to that point, really.
Okay, Vineet, you and me are coming to the end of the program. We have another 8-9 minutes left. Let us ask all of you very simple question, and we want an honest and a specific answer. Don't say depends on God and things like that, which of course it does depend on God. We all live because of His kindness. But let me ask you, when do you see the Indian economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months plus? Second, what is the one lesson you learned in COVID which will help you do your business better? So I'll start with Sandeep Kumar Panda. Sandeep, when will the economy come back?
I do not see any time before 18 months things falling in track.
And why do you say that?
And only see it's like this. We just spoke about it in the show. Until I get a confidence that yes, what Pulak just now said, yes, there are mechanisms in place where I can go with full assurance, or as Anubhav said, there is full testing and availability of all kinds of precautions and medicines, right? So this is not going to happen anytime soon. Even if that happens for a small cross section of the society, it will not be until the entire economy is confident. So that's a very long haul journey. And I think the biggest takeaway for me personally has been that work from home was always spoken about. It actually works. For digital workers.
No, I have a little different view on work from home. I believe that it works for people who are motivated and who are working before the lockdown also. And second, there is for some level of workers, they don't have independent rooms, there's small houses. You have two children, you have the wife closeted. So I think sometimes the quality of what you get up is also. So I have a little, while I believe in flexi working, and I've worked from home 3 days a week for the last 7-8 years. But I'm an entrepreneur. I think it's the level of motivation that matters.
Absolutely.
But broadly, flexi working is the way forward. Ankit Oberoi?
18 months plus, right? I think based on what we're seeing, as of course, the vaccine isn't coming anytime soon. And even if it comes, the amount of time it will take to create that production, the distribution chain, right? And or if we hit herd immunity, right, which is 70% plus, 60, 70% plus, both isn't happening, I think, in the next 6 months or 10 months. I think it will take at least 1.5 years for the the whole nation to come back to normalcy, if what we define it as of previous habits, even close to that. So I think 18 months plus at least.
Okay, and what is one lockdown lesson?
Okay, so I think it was a reminder that all challenges are also an opportunity, and that I think was a very good reminder in March for us, for me and my whole team.
Okay, Pooja Dugar, when do you see economy coming back, and what's your one lockdown lesson?
I think not before 18 months. I think some segment could come in early, but overall economy, we are talking about 1.3 billion people and so many testing kids and the trust to come in, and we need to just go all out. So I feel it's somewhere about 18 months it would take to come back.
We need, finally, reality started to set into people, right? Looks like that, okay? Sometimes we get entrepreneurs who are and we like positive people. We ourselves positive people, and we'd like to. I hope all of you are proven wrong, and the economy comes back. I'm sure you'll be happy if you're proven wrong.
Definitely. So we are all working bit by bit, but we can't also run away from the reality. I also wish it comes back soon, but I think 18 months. Looking at the situation right now, it all depends how we get the testings in place. And for me, one learning lesson, which is from COVID, is don't wait, for the time. Don't wait. Just keep innovating every day in your business, because
don't wait it to be perfect.
Yeah, don't wait it to be perfect.
What you have now.
Absolutely, keep innovating every day, because this is what COVID has taught me, and we had to do it overnight. Being into education,
there is a old saying: expect the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yes, absolutely.
We heard it throughout our
absolutely. Yes.
And right now is the time when to think like that. Hopefully we'll have, though, abundance theory and secret says you can't expect the worst, at best, and then prepare for the worst. If you expect the best, then prepare for the best. So anyway, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I definitely. And for me, we all get comfortable in where we are because we feel ourselves we are doing well. But this pandemic has hit us in a way that it's just eroded that other aspect of us where we've all gone in and done whatever took best for our businesses and our lives. So yes.
Okay, Anubhav.
I would say 60 months.
How much?
60.
5 years.
For India to really shine.
Clearly, he wins. You're the most pessimistic person. So there's nobody who's been close to you.
I think 4 months is the most optimistic estimate, because India needs a hard reset if it's to become the $5 trillion economy, whatever that they say. India needs a hard reset. Our leaders hopefully will make the tough decisions that may not give exponential growth immediately, but in the next 5 years, that growth is going to revamp our fundamentals. And it's probably going to be more sustainable at a larger level. And that's, from that point of view...
Why do you say 5 years? I want to understand, Anubhav.
How do I say 5 years? I mean, just take the healthcare industry, for example. if we are to become a $5 trillion economy and healthcare needs to play a fundamental role, you need fundamental innovations in the manufacturing processes that currently don't reside in India, and that intellectual property is not owned by Indians. So if you don't revamp the R&D technology transfer away from public universities into the private sector, implement legislations, you're not going to see that. There'll always be a reliance on our supply chain, which is going to go into either Europe or East Asia. So if all of that supply chain needs to be completely reverse integrated.
You are talking of us being in full bloom, with the reset getting to a new point. That's a little different than what I asked, but we get. Let us, for our viewers, let us clarify what we're saying, that for us to reap the dividends of the economic stimulus in the reset, it will take us 5 years to be Aatmanirbhar, to be self-reliant, to build new supply chains, to attract more investment in India. Final point, Pulak, how many months?
Somewhere 12 months. A V-shaped recovery will be there.
And your top down lesson?
Yeah, because I think from around 24% dip in June end, now it's going to make up. Obviously, what I see by 12 months, it will be a V-shaped recovery in Indian economy. It's only people have to come out of the fear factor.
I hope
that's a new normal.
All the game.
Yeah.
No,
this will be the new normal where people know that they have to be cautious.
There's nothing normal about it.
Yes.
But your one lockdown lesson, Pulak?
You've run out of...
there's always opportunity, and we have actually taken the advantage of that.
Right. I hope we haven't left anybody out. We've got
You've done well.
Economy is going to bounce back. On that note, thank you everyone for being a part of this amazing show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.